Welcome back to Free State Online. My name is Lovoyo Jacobs, and this is a special broadcast for the 2021 local government elections, as we have been having different interviews throughout the course of the day. Just try to get a different feel of the different communities that we have within the space in regards to the local government elections. And right now we are joined in by Ms. Sondiyazi, just giving us a feel of what the LGBTI community is expecting from out of these local government elections, and of course, furthermore, what they would love to see within the space in regards to the local government elections, because we have seen that in the times whereby there's no elections and it's just a normal year, the LGBTQI community is one community that is facing a lot of problems, a lot of violation of rights, but there's not much that comes from whoever is in power. So this is a very insightful conversation that we're going to have. So do tune in and just listen as we're about to dive in. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Luria. Thank you so much for having us.
How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you very much for availing yourself to have this conversation with us.
Pleasure.
All right, I think firstly, please just kindly introduce yourself to everyone that is watching us and formally introduce why you are here.
Yes. Just myself.
Yourself and the sector.
Well, my name is Nosana Sondiyazi. My pronouns are she, her, they, them. And I'm an activist for the LGBTI community.
Great stuff.
Yes.
Once again, thank you very much for having this conversation with us. The first question, have you voted?
You know what? Voting is something that's going to happen later on today by me. Later on, I want to put in a last-minute vote.
Like
Just
that deciding vote.
Like, I want to feel like I did something, that vote of mine did something.
But generally, as a citizen in the Republic of South Africa, what is the importance of voting? Why do you think that young people, generally people, should vote?
Well, voting goes hand in hand with trusting actually the powers that you're voting for. So it's a two-way thing. Am I going to vote if I trust that my vote is going to go for something that's actually going to work for me? Or am I going to look and complain? Or am I going to do something that actually assists all on my own? And actually am I going to be going hand in hand with who votes and who I should be voting for? So I feel that yes, we all should be voting, but we should be trusting who we're voting for. We should be helping those that we're putting in power, and we ourselves have got a responsibility to do something.
All right, so before we get into the deepness of this interview with the LGBTI activists, what we're going to do, we're just going to take a quick short ad break. When we come back, we'll be heading straight then to the juiciness of this interview. With Nosana Sondiyazi, an LGBTQI activist speaking all things local government elections and the inclusivity of the LGBTQI community within the space. As we know that we are in the eve of elections, everyone is voting, everyone is trying to cast their vote as to whom they believe is going to change, right? So right now we are here to get a deeper perspective of how the LGBTQI is feeling firstly about these elections, secondly the expectations that there are within the space, right? So Ms. Sondiyazi is here to give us a perspective that is very contextual, firstly, and before that ad break, you were just telling us that firstly, you are going to vote, but of course you want to be dramatic with how you vote. Yeah. You're going to vote at the last minute, just to see if your vote is going to make a difference or not. Right, so now, entering then into the actual conversation about the LGBTQI community. Firstly, do you think that even before elections, is there enough representation of the LGBTQI community in spaces of leadership in your parliament, in local government? Are there people that are part of the community that would be brave enough to even stand to run to become a councillor in a ward?
It's not always safe to come out as a member of the LGBTI community. We don't advise people to come out if they are not safe. If maybe their lives are going to be in danger, if they're not going to have the ability to do whatever work they need to do to the best of their ability. If people are going to come in and say, but you're gay, so we can't trust you. It's not always advisable. So we definitely believe already that there is representation. If that representation is open or not, that's another question. We have men who have sex with men. This is called the MSN community. These are married men. Men with families, girlfriends, children, that are members of our community, that are going to be quiet about it, right? But most of the time, you will find these these are active members of society, positions of leadership, in business, making a contribution. So we believe these people are there. Are they going to be open enough to say that they are part of our community? Sometimes not, right? So I think it's necessary for some of us to come out. And also what's necessary is for our spaces to be accommodating to us. And we're not asking for bathrooms. We're not asking for toilets. We are asking for the same thing that was asked by us before as the black community we were in power. We were just asking as a race to be accommodated. And before that, as women, we were asking to be accommodated. And now the latest question is the LGBTI, are we being accommodated? This is not an exclusive race. This is not an exclusive gender. These are sexual minorities, gender identities that actually are already part of society that need inclusion.
But do you think that, sorry, in terms of education generally within society, a lot is being done to educate, firstly, society about these matters? And the current government, are they doing enough to provide resources for us to know? Because right now, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking of someone in a rural area that has never been exposed to such information, right? But they're supposed to vote, they're supposed to know about this. So is there enough that's being done currently?
In terms of education about sexual minorities,
Yes. Because
diversities.
how we view the LGBTQI community generally as society, we are viewing them as, a group of naughty boys on the corner that always wants to be looked at, that always likes attention. That is how society continuously looks at the LGBTQI community, that you do not need an extra bathroom, for example, because you don't understand what the LGBTQI community is all about, right? So I want to know that from you, do you think that resources are being provided actually for us to know about such stuff?
Actually, the Department of Education created a book, which is a textbook, called Challenging Homophobic Bullying in Schools. It was created by our very own government. Currently, all schools have a choice. Do they want to put this in their syllabus or not? Parents sometimes contest it. Teachers sometimes decide, I will teach this or not. A principal has got the power to decide, would this be included in life orientation? So the resource is there. Is it being accepted? Is it being accommodated? That's the question, right? So when it comes to that education, that foundation level is so important. So what are we supposed to do? Are we going to be known only as the naughty ones in the corner? Are we going to be known as the ones that cause the scandal, that out people? Unfortunately, that's what we are always going to be famous for. And it's not always fair because, like I mentioned, there will be members of our community who are doing substantial things that are not coming out as being part of our community. And because that aspect is hidden, that aspect is secret, it won't be something that is public.
True.
Because we need to be minimized and we need to be shamed for our sexuality. So what I would really love is for the de-shame of the sexual practice to happen.
And of course, in the eve then of elections, what we are doing is that we are receiving every promise that we can get from every political party right now.
Yeah.
We have 10 and more political parties that have written manifestos, and with our knowledge of manifestos is what you plan on doing, right? And now with these manifestos, they try to have an inclusion of every group in society. For example, they'll speak about water and sanitation. You know that is for the disadvantaged. They'll speak about education, which is for the young people. They'll speak about pension funds, which is for the old people. But there's nothing that usually speaks of accommodating the LGBTI community within this space. So I want to know that from you, with these upcoming local government elections, what are you expecting from the different manifestos, and specifically in terms of the community?
Well, there's a hate crimes bill that is on the burner that is still waiting to be adopted. We are being killed every day in different communities, big city, small rural town. All of a sudden, someone will meet us, dislike us, end our lives. Our right to life in the Constitution is totally, we are being put at risk in that manner. And then we've got deeper rights. We have a community within our sector called the transgender community. Now, this means perhaps you were assigned a particular sex at birth, you were born male, but then you are living as female. And then you need all the gender affirming healthcare within the health sector that is afforded to you. The same hormone therapy treatment that is afforded to a woman that is on her menopause later in life is the same treatment that is needed by a transgender woman that needs her hormones to balance out and make her bodily appearance appear as female. It's difficult for us to access that. At the Department of Home Affairs, same-sex marriage, there'll be an official that will decide to claim their rights and say it's against my culture, my religion, my tradition to officiate a same-sex marriage, even though the law says that it's your job to do so, right? So then we definitely want Home Affairs to be held accountable for when they deny same-sex couples those rights. And same again to transgender people when currently Miss South Africa pageant, you as a transgender person, you will be born male, living female, beautiful, gorgeous, and the only rule that is asking you to enter the pageant is, does your ID say you are female? But now we go to Home Affairs to try and access the gender marker change, and it will be difficult for us to access it. And these are the things that I feel definitely different institutions, different government departments, there needs to be innovation and definitely people who are going to be more accommodating to actually just do what is written in the law. We're not asking for special favors. We're not asking for somebody to do something for us under the table. We're asking for people to actually do what is written down for us constitutionally.
And I think you are mentioning very critical matters and very critical points, especially when you are now even pinpointing the different departments where you see these downfalls. And now we are in the midst of elections. When you read up the different political parties' manifestos, these are the important matters that are lacking.
Yeah.
So when you vote, as a member of the LGBTQI community, you see all of these things. You have perfect water and sanitation, you have proper schooling, but what you want to be advocated for,
we don't see it.
You don't see it in the manifesto.
We don't see it highlighted, we don't see it driven for, we don't see it as something that's going to be pushed for. Because we see that actually it's still individually up to each institution, each department to decide how accommodating they're going to be for us. We don't need to be accommodated. We already have our equal rights. We just want the same basic rights, equal rights to everybody. And we kind of just would like to see a political party say they are going to actually make sure that we are not still begging for rights that are already due to us.
And then in an instance like this now, where you have to beg for inclusion, you have to beg to be accommodated, you have to beg to be seen, then who do you vote for? How do you even take your decision to vote?
You know, I would believe that each individual person is going to choose according to their experience with that political party, their experience to accessing that service and seeing what were the channels that best actually accommodated them. If I was just an individual person that was not necessarily leaning towards any political party, and I had a particular something that needed to be solved for me, if the first person or the particular person that is the one that wants to assist me, I'll be the one that actually thinks that, okay, this person is interested in me. But I would also like to look back into the history of that political party. That are they just doing it now for my vote, or is this something I can rely on after? Yeah.
And I think that is one of the most crucial things that we should also be looking at when we are casting our votes. That during this season of voting, all of us, we have our different promises that we give out. But now, when you look at the track record of that specific individual or political party, you can see if they have the capability of delivering or not, right? But now then moving forward into the future, I want to know that painting a picture that is very perfect after local government elections, we have a political party, we have a ward councillor that has been inaugurated, everything is back to normal. What would you like to see moving forward, especially within
LGBT? There is a particular act that affects us very greatly. And that is Act 49 of 2003 that allows us access to change our gender marker. On my birth certificate, it will give me a particular gender. I am now living as an adult. I'm living another gender. That act actually is very unclear around how to access my gender marker. I would like that act clarified, because the transgender members, it is that particular act that has us going to this psychologist, this psychiatrist, that doctor, getting this referral letter, and then we still, perhaps, even once we are putting down all of what we have at our disposal to access our rights, to change our gender marker. Because remember, we have a right to equality based on our sex and our sexual orientation, and our gender identity. But then when we want to switch, there are all these papers in place and regulations in place that we need to adhere to. When these regulations are unclear, this makes it difficult. And also, a very important one is that when we need gender-affirming healthcare, advanced sexual reproductive health rights, information, if a heterosexual person goes to a clinic and needs family planning advice, termination of pregnancy advice, contraceptive advice, it's freely available information. A same-sex couple, if they want the same advice, it's not available. These are sexual reproductive health rights that should be equalized. They shouldn't be one more scarce than the other. So definitely that needs attention.
And as you're speaking right now, especially mentioning very important documents like the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, policies, every time during these times of elections, what I think of people in disadvantaged communities that don't even know that there's a constitution that exists. There's a sister, there's a brother sitting somewhere in a very rural area, very underdeveloped, very under-resourced, that does not even know that they can still even fight for such rights, right? So I think moving forward, for me personally, what I believe that whoever makes it into power in the different wards, in the different provinces, is to make sure that there is education that's available, there's resource that's available, and the resource is not only available to the privileged.
And it's translated in different languages. That's the most important part. Because currently we have information, education, material, right, that is distributed, and it's written in English only. And it's been so great with the vaccination rollout when I see that information is in different languages. So definitely our SA Constitution and our human rights as individual members of society, that, in fact, the entire Constitution, all the specifically our right to dignity, our right to equality, our right to life, those chapters, they need to be translated, because this is why, as marginalized communities, when we are targeted, when our lives are targeted, when we are unaware that we have a right to live. Because if you're going to hide that somebody is threatening your life because of your sexual orientation, it means you're perhaps not aware that you've got the right to live. If you can believe it, somebody threatens you, that I'm going to kill you because of who you are, perhaps you are not aware that you've got the right to live. And I think that should be fiercely highlighted.
Sure. And I think also many government departments, many government institutions, they preach collaboration so much, right? So I want to know that from members of the community, and there are many organizations also within the LGBTI community that advocate for many factors that you mentioned, right? So what role do they play in society post-elections, even during elections?
Organizations that advocate for the rights of LGBTI, they work directly with the Department of Health, specifically with the National Strategic Plan when it comes to the AIDS epidemic. HIV, AIDS, STIs, and TB. It's the funding that is targeted for that. And when you have got that type of funding, it's either you're working with vulnerable populations, whether it is adolescent young girls and women,
there are lots of young girls who are unfortunately having their teenage pregnancy and are not able to highlight who's oppressing them and abusing them and raping them. And I would also just like to add, as somebody that advocates for key and vulnerable populations, is that the sex worker sector has made great strides in assuring that that the rights of the sex worker community are adhered to and accommodated. Because now you'll be a sex worker because sex work is work, and perhaps you'll still be targeted even by institutions that are supposed to assist you. And then people who use and inject drugs as well, these people that have to leave their homes and are often like living in the streets and don't even have access to basic sanitation. There'll be a tap somewhere for them to clean themselves. And then just somebody will look at them, you are too dirty, you use drugs, you're not even allowed this basic service. So I definitely think we need to come together as people who are often targeted and pointed at as different, and see how we can help each other. Maybe let's all share the same bathroom. People with disability, we need to have a bathroom for you, for your wheelchair. The mothers that's going to change the nappy, let's share a bathroom. As LGBTI, you've got something in your underwear that's different from what you look like. Let's use the same bathroom. And maybe perhaps as well the people of the members of the people that use the drugs and the things like that, let them use the sink, let them wash themselves. Let's use the same bathroom.
Wrapping things up, the future 2020, let's say 2030.
Yeah.
Where would you love to see South Africa, and how would you love advocacy to be screamed at, especially in terms of the community?
Well, definitely, I would love it if some of the examples of which I believe are basic services to be easily rolled out from metro cities to rural communities. I would love it that the knowledge and the information is at every clinic. Because currently even the people who are needing to access whatever medicine they need to access, if that medicine is targeted as a special medicine and is seen as an inconvenience, then those people are still going to be seen on the periphery. So let everybody that's on the periphery be included in essential healthcare, essential services, and let somebody in power out there be gay. Let's see that, please. I'd love it. I'd love to vote for a queer president, a queer mayor, a queer ward councillor openly, even if they've got their complicated situation. Let us know that life is complicated. Let's not judge.
And I think that each and every single day we are moving towards that South Africa, slowly but surely.
Yeah.
And even when we vote, we'll be voting on capability. We'll be voting on people that actually take note of such important stuff. So thank you very much for having this conversation with us. And we believe that we have a clear insight right now. And love and light for the journey ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And that was a very insightful interview with LGBTQI activists. So right now, we'll be heading straight then to the news.